How do you close this box? To go away. Now right there. I do this every time. No, don't worry. She's leaving. That's all. Yeah, she can go over.
Yeah, this is Darshini. Hi.
I'm in.
I'm Darshini.
Sun is over there. You set you up.
Yeah, I can use my laptop.
You mind using ours?
I have my law. Yeah, okay. Would you prefer? Because it's okay.
Then we will
I mean,
switch off and,
I can switch it, no problem. Oh, wait. I can. Oh, you can share it. I can share it.
You want to
Which,
share?
yeah, which email address should I
Okay. Yeah, you can share to my email address.
Okay.
That work?
Where do you prefer the letter? Yeah. Okay. I'll just type it. When I can do it.
Thanks for helping us out.
Anytime. Happy to be here. Yeah, which email address should I
Yeah.
share?
It's kmnn@gmail.com.
I will need Wi-Fi access. Which NUS open?
Yeah, our Wi-Fi is notoriously hard. You may have to use your phone if you have a
Oh, okay.
hotspot. Otherwise, I can turn mine on. Yeah, it's really, really difficult to use NUS systems.
So, is this connected to the internet?
Yes.
Okay, so this will play.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
It's broadcasting the Google Hangouts now. So I can help you manage the laptop at gmail.com. KNMNYN. Sorry, it's very.
No, it's fine. Just want to make sure I have it right.
Sure.
Okay, you should have access to
Okay,
it.
I'll check the drive.
She comes after Darshini's
Yeah, there it is. Is that yours?
Yes, that's right.
Great.
She's not from this class.
No, not from this.
So I think she comes in with her Where do you need me to start?
Anywhere you like.
Okay.
Right now it's on screen share.
Okay.
So if you wanted to go back, you can just change it off.
Sure. Oh, okay.
Is that okay? Or do you
This is
prefer
okay.
to?
This is okay.
Okay.
So is everything okay for?
Yeah, it's coming in live, so it's lagged about a minute,
Oh,
but it's showing.
Thank you.
So that will go on YouTube.
No pressure.
No. Yeah, we have actually quite a lot of students who are away, so they can watch the presentation.
Okay, I just want to make sure the videos work. Yeah, it's fine.
Anything I'll be suggesting over there. So we have a wireless mic. Do you want a corded mic or handheld or clip-on?
I think clip-on would be better. Do we have place to plug this in? I don't know.
Yeah, sure. You can use this one.
It should work. Sometimes it doesn't.
For us, I think that's
Otherwise, we can one of those here.
It's okay. I mean, if we can't get it to work. Okay, we can't get it to work. It's okay.
Sorry about
No,
that.
no, it's fine. I think there's a problem with this one.
I can give you another one. We have another one inside here.
It's fine. No stress. It's absolutely
All right.
this is the program.
That's one. Yes. Shop.
Some of that
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, is it?
Let's,
Okay.
I can always switch to that, no problem.
Let me just.
so we will have you need some, we have some left over from last year. Some from last year.
Yeah, perfect.
Last
Thank you.
year.
Let's put it here. Yeah.
And I'm going to replace those batteries now. So I'm going to two more.
I'll let you do it.
Okay. I hope I can figure it out too.
Should we start? Should we start? Okay.
We're not in any rush, so whenever you're ready.
Run.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, you don't have to worry.
I planned for like an hour because it depends on the questions they have. Yeah, so. Are you going back to your office after this?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I will call taxi for
You're all set. So
Interesting. Can you hear
we
me?
can turn it off.
Okay, it's working. It's working. Once we're ready, we can start. Okay.
Do you want to control this? Is this one, right?
No, wireless
Wireless
mic, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's picking up some signal. The microphone is over here for the recording. Let's go back to your slides, right? This one.
Should we start? All right, can you hear me? Too loud.
Stand here with
Okay, let's try. Hello, hello. Can you hear me now? Let's try this one more time. Can you hear me now? No screeching. Great. All right, so welcome to this afternoon session. How's everyone feeling? How's everyone feeling? It seems like the energy level in the room right now is really, really low. Is this normal? Come on, guys. I know it's after lunch. I know it feels like it should be nap time, but come on. How's everyone feeling? All right, it's getting a little bit better. Let's hope it gets better as the day progresses. Before I begin, can I request you all to put your laptops away if you're not using it? Thank you. There's nothing more demotivating for a presenter than seeing the white glow of a costly laptop light on people's faces, right? So if you're not going to use your laptops, I'd request you to put them away. Thank you. All right, to check again, everybody can hear me clearly? Great. So welcome to this afternoon session. I know your energy levels must be low after lunch, but let's try and keep it up. Okay, so ask questions at any point, stop me, comments, anything at all, throw them my way. Let's make this as interactive as possible. All right. So my name is Darshini Santhanam. I've been with Google close to 9 years, actually, yes. In another 4 days, I celebrate my 9th anniversary. It's been a long time. I'm currently working with the SMB team, which is a small and medium business team, and my job is to make sure that we get educational programs rolled out to businesses across Southeast Asia. Yeah, it's to get educational programs rolled out. Now, in my part-time, which is about my 20% project, you may have heard of it, we have 20% projects at Google. My 20% project is to work internally and train Googlers within our Singapore office on how to deliver presentations, which is why I'm here to talk to you, all right? So I'm going to be talking to you about some best practices and some thoughts for you to think about as you go into making presentations over the course of your degree, but also after, okay? Sounds good? How many of you have made a presentation in the last 1 month? In the last 1 week? In the last 1 year? So most of you have made a presentation before. How many of you think you did a really good job in the presentation you made? Being humble, of course. Also being honest. How many of you think that it was awful and this is something you're never going to do again? You can be honest. Okay, so before I begin, let me tell you this, right? The first time I delivered a presentation, this is how I was. Okay, I was like, according to this slide, we have point A which says blah 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 blah, point 2 which says blah 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 blah, point 3 which says blah 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 blah. Next slide. That was how I did my first presentation. Okay, so if you feel like there's a long way to go before you can deliver great presentations, worry not. Everybody starts somewhere, and everybody starts in a horrible place. Okay? Alright, so on that note, I want to play for you a video. How many of you know who Eric Schmidt is? Who's Eric Schmidt? Yeah, my mega boss, yes. But also the executive chairman of Google. Alright? He used to be with Sun Microsystems before he joined Google. And when he was, let's say, go back 15 years, he was not a great presenter. Okay, I'm going to play a video for you and let you watch it. Just for the first couple of minutes. By the way, the entire video is available on YouTube if you want to watch it later. But just watch the first couple of minutes and then we'll discuss it. Okay?
My name is Eric Schmidt. I'm currently the general manager of the software trust division at Sun Microsystems. I've been at Sun for about 5 years. I would like to be a better speaker. I'm completely self-taught as a speaker, and I find that I'm spending more and more time talking to larger and larger groups, many of whom I don't know. So the problem that I'm having is that all the skills that I developed when I was very small, when I was a researcher, don't work for a larger group. I find all the things that you talked about earlier, such as people don't know what you're thinking unless you show it to them. All those things are just different. For example, the division is now so large that every time I talk to it, it's the largest audience I've ever spoken to. So I view every speech as a challenge. I have no sense of time. I don't know how to organize my speaking stuff. I try to be spontaneous, but because of the nature of the constituencies in the group, the spontaneity might get me into trouble. So there's a concern there.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. I'm going to stop it there. What do you think so far? Honest. Very good, someone said? Come on. Let's be honest. I'm not going to go back and tell him, so you have nothing to lose. It was awful. It was really, really bad. He was standing like this, his hands were moving, he was like speaking stuff. I'm not very good at my speaking stuff. Who says that? Come on. Right? Do we all agree it was awful? What was that? Can't hear any of you. A little bit off? Okay. So all in all, that was awful, right? But let's come back towards the end of today's session and look at another example of how it is possible to build that ability. Nobody is born with great presentation skills, by the way. Okay? And this is proof of that. Absolutely nobody is born with great presentation skills. It's something that you have to develop for yourself. Oops. All right. So something for you to think about as you go into developing your presentations. All right? As you go into developing your presentations, remind yourself that at the end of the day, you are doing a presentation with the end objective that your audience is going to learn something. They're going to have new knowledge that is going to be transferred from you to them. Now, in that transference, between the presenter and the audience, there are two aspects to keep in mind. One is the content itself, right? What is it that you are presenting? Are you talking to them about an app you have developed, or are you talking to them about presentation skills? That is the content. The second part is the actual engagement and how you engage with the audience. You can choose not to engage with your audience without asking any questions, not making any eye contact, staying within my own space, or you can choose to engage with the larger audience, make eye contact with people, and actually start to create those communication lines which result in people engaging and thereby learning. Does that make sense? Okay, so there are two parts to it. Two parts to any presentation. The content itself, and then how you go about engaging with your audience. Alright, so based on that, today these are the three broad topics I'm going to cover, after which I'm going to give you the opportunity to practice. Alright? First one is engagement. How do you present like a pro? Right? So what are the practices to keep in mind? What are the principles to keep in mind as you go in towards presenting? Second, how do you tell an effective story? Remember the content bit? how do you tell an effective story, and what elements go towards making an effective story. And finally, we'll also talk to you a little bit about the elevator pitch. What is an elevator pitch? Who can tell me?
In this short presentation that's supposed to be like maybe within like 20 seconds to 1 minute.
You're right and you're wrong. It's a short presentation. The part that's right is that it's short. The part that's wrong is that it's a presentation. It doesn't have to be a presentation. All right? A 1 minute pitch is a pitch. In a minute, if you start to pull a slide up and start talking, it's going to take away your time, but it will also distract the user from listening to what you're saying. So absolutely, you're right. It has to be short. It's usually 20 seconds, 40 seconds, or a minute, maximum of a minute. But anything beyond that, it's typically only associated with actual communication, or you talking, you making your pitch without any aids. Okay? You don't have anything else to support you. It's you going out there and making a pitch. We'll talk about that a little bit more, and I'll help you come up with your elevator pitches based on a common structure that's used globally. Make sense? All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about presenting like a pro. I'm going to take another favorite example of mine. Okay? And this one is, I'm sure you know what product this is. This is the MacBook Air. Yep. I see one right here. I see a few in the audience. So you're quite familiar with this. I'm also going to use this opportunity to remind you that if you're not using your laptops for the sake of today's presentation, I will request you to please put it away. The white ghastly glow on your faces doesn't look very nice. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to play this video for you now. And I'll let it play for the first 3 or 4 minutes. But what I want you to do as this plays is not just listen to the great talk, but make notes on what you think he's doing really, really well. Okay? So what are the things he does that makes this an effective presentation? Okay? Ready?
There's something in the air. What is it? Well, as you know, Apple makes the best notebooks on the planet. The MacBook and the MacBook Pro. These are the standards in the industry by which competitive products are judged. Well, today we're introducing a third kind of notebook. It's called the MacBook Air. Now, what is the MacBook Air? In a sentence, it's the world's thinnest notebook. So, what does that mean? Well, we went out and looked at all the thin notebooks out there. Most people think of these, the Sony TZ series. They're good notebooks, and they're thin. Right? This is what they look like. Side view there. We looked at all of them out there and kind of tried to distill the best of the breed of all of them. And, you know, they generally weigh about 3 pounds. They're, in this case, in the Sony's case, they're about 0.8 inches to 1.2 inches thin. They're wedge shaped. It's quite representative. They compromise, though, to get the weight down on things like the display. They have an 11 or 12-inch display, most of them an 11. They also compromise on the keyboard. Instead of putting full-size keyboards in, they make miniature keyboards. And they don't run them as fast as they could because their thermal envelopes don't support faster processors. So we looked at this and we said, what do we like and what do we think is a compromise here? We think the weight's a good target. 3 pounds. But we think there's too much compromising to get there. Too much compromising on thickness, too much compromising on less than a full-size display, less than a full-size keyboard, and we think you can put even more performance in one of these products. So, let's take a look at the thinness first. This is that Sony product. Again, one of the best in the field. 1.2 inches down to 0.8 inches. This is the MacBook Air. 0.76 inches down to an unprecedented 0.16 inches. Now I want to point something out here. The thickest part of the MacBook Air is still thinner than the thinnest part of the TZ series. Okay? We're talking thin here. So, it's so thin, it even fits inside one of these envelopes that we've all seen floating around the office. And so let me go ahead and show it to you now.
All right, I'm going to pause it there now. Let me get thoughts from you. What did he do really, really well? You have to be really loud.
Build up the hype.
Build up the hype, yes. What else? Yep. Use Keynote and not PowerPoint, okay. Someone at the back? Someone said something at the back.
Emotion.
Emotion?
He speaks very slowly.
There's someone here dying to say something and I can't hear it. Who is it? Come on, speak up. Good looking, handsome. Okay, what else do we have there?
Speaks very slowly.
Speak slowly. Yes? Engages the audience. How does he engage the audience? Now you know he's in a room with thousands of people, right? How do you engage 1,000 people in a room?
Pauses for applause.
Pauses for applause. He knows when they are going to applaud. Do you agree? He has practiced his speech so many times. He knows when people are going to stop to appreciate. Any other thoughts?
He has a great product.
He has a great product, yes. What else?
Presentation is very simple. Point point.
Presentation is simple. Look at his slides. There's nothing there except for one image or one table or a word. What else?
More graphics.
More graphics? Maybe I should move away. More graphics, okay, what else?
He compares against previous products well.
He compares really, really well. Can you hear me? Yep.
He straightaway pushes the value proposition to the audience.
Value proposition. Does he say, I am selling this because this are the benefits? He doesn't say it, but he implies it. Anyone from this side? Yep.
I think he gives the audience an image to hold on to via something that's familiar, because everyone knows the manila envelope is pretty thick, and you can fit the laptop inside.
Great.
And it's something that you can hold on.
Great point. All very, very good points. You know what you're saying to me? You're saying to me that this man knows how to set context. Do you agree? He is giving you something to relate to. He's setting the context. He's allowing you to relate the product that he's selling to what you know. He's not coming out here and saying, let me tell you about something you have no clue about. He's coming out and he's saying, here's what you know, right? And here's what I know about my product. Let me meet you halfway so that I can help you see what message I'm trying to send to you. We all know communication is a two-way street, right? Just because I stand up here and talk doesn't necessarily mean that you understand what I'm saying. And by me standing up here and talking, I can't expect that you will have learned everything that I have taught you. I'm only successful if I'm able to meet you halfway and you are able to understand whatever message I am trying to tell you. So part of the communication on my end is to understand what you know and what I have to tell you. And he does a really good job of that. He sets that context. Another thing I wanted to show you was numbers. People love to use numbers in presentation. Right? We have 125 users, of which 98% of them use it 5 hours a day. So what? So what? Numbers don't mean anything unless they're set in context. Did you see how simply he used the image of the thickness of the Sony laptop versus the thickness of the MacBook Air to demonstrate the same numbers. Otherwise, you're sitting in an audience of 1,000 people and he's telling you 1.2 something inches, 1 point or 0.8 inches. You don't have context. Or you have to physically imagine it before you can understand what he's saying. But he does a really good job of setting that in context. I'll give you another example. If I were to go out and tell people that there are X million YouTube videos available in the Philippines, it doesn't mean anything. But if I turn it around and I say, that means that 4 out of 5 people in this room today will have spent 2 hours on YouTube already. Suddenly, it makes no sense. Do you agree? So be very wary of some of these things. So he does a really good job of a lot of these things. Sets context, gives you the big picture, creates drama. Why is drama important? It gets attention. It elicits the response that you want from the audience. And there's another huge reason for drama. All right? Drama is important to display your passion for what product you're looking to sell. If I'm just standing here and telling you that presentation skills, you should do it by standing upright, keep your back straight, keep your head down, make eye contact. That's not interesting, right? That's extremely boring, especially in the post-lunch slot. Creating a bit of drama also allows you to display your emotion, display how you feel personally about a product that you're pitching. Oftentimes, how you say it is more important than what you're saying. And if you are looking to pitch whatever it is that you are creating, you need to demonstrate that passion, that enthusiasm, and that sense that you personally believe in the product that you're pitching. Okay? And that comes from drama. And how do you create drama? You don't talk in a monotonous voice. You don't just keep on talking like this and expecting people to understand that you're really, really passionate about what you're saying. But you use different tones. You go up, you go down, you use pauses. You don't pause for so long that people start to wonder, have you forgotten what you came here to say? But you pause just enough to get people so enthusiastic about your product that they will then give you a response. Okay, so this that we just talked about the Steve Jobs video, right? Great, there are lots of videos like this available online. Check it out. It's all on YouTube. Lots of comments. There's lots of people who have even studied his presentation style. Okay, so you can get articles about Steve Jobs' presentation style if you want. What is the one thing that you don't see here that is a huge contributor to his successful presentation?
Preparation.
His preparation. He cannot just come up here and present these slides and do it well. There's no way he would have got his pauses right, his content right. There's no way he would have known what he's talking about if he hadn't prepared. So it is rumored that Steve Jobs, on the morning of his launches, would actually go in at 4:30 a.m. When the tech staff were setting up their screens, setting up the audio, he would go in and practice his entire presentation. He is also known to have the ability to switch slides in sync with what he's saying, even without seeing what's in the background. That takes a lot of practice to know exactly when to switch a slide, when to change the animation. He knows. And that comes purely from practice. So practice, 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 practice. I cannot say it enough. This man practiced. There's no excuse for us not practicing, right? All right. So we just discussed a couple of things he does really, really well. Any thoughts around what you think he doesn't do well? We're talking just about presentation styles here.
I think he pays around.
He paces around quite a bit. Okay. What else? Anything else? So he walks around a little bit, he stands here, he talks, and then he goes back, he paces. Okay, so here's the thing, right? A lot of people will come and tell you that to present, you must keep your feet in one place, hands by the side, talk, 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 move in crisp movements, etc. But here's my personal opinion. Presentation also has to be very personal. Each of you will develop your own styles as time progresses. So it's not a bad thing to pace. It is something people notice, and if you're constantly pacing up and down, it's extremely distracting. Then people are just watching you walk up and down. They're not listening to what you're saying. Right? But learn to develop a style from what is comfortable for yourself. You know what the principles are. Right? You just watched the video, and as time progresses and you deliver more and more presentations, you'll understand all the nuances of presenting really well. But also introduce your own style. It's absolutely okay to walk around if you prefer. I like to use my hands when I speak, whereas a lot of people don't use their hands when they speak. Right? So it's okay to bring that personal element. There's no one size only that is perfect for presentation. It's good to have your personal element. Just work on it to make sure that it doesn't work against you, but works for you. All right. Who can guess what these four stand for? You may have seen the other slide by mistake. Even if you have, do you want to guess? Yep. Power, pitch, pause, and pace. Absolutely. The 4 P's of presentation. Have you heard this before? Guys, why so sleepy? I know it's 2:30, or it's 1:30. It is post-lunch. Have you heard this before? The 4 P's of presentation. Okay, very good. So then that's something you need to take away. The 4 P's of presentation. Okay? So you have power, pitch, pace, and pause. When I'm talking about power, I'm talking about, can the people at the back hear you? Yes, I have a microphone. But if I didn't, would I be speaking loud enough that the person at the back could hear me? Here's a tip for you. If you're ever practicing a presentation and you're presenting it to a friend or a family member, get them to stand at the furthest point in the room and then you speak. Okay? And there's no harm in asking, can you hear me, before you begin. You may have noticed I did that before we started. Okay? Make sure everybody can hear, and that is where the power comes from. And wherever required, remember to emphasize what you have to say. Again, adds to the drama. Also, helps you make a point. Here's something you may or may not know. Less than 20%, this is in adults, less than 20% in a work environment of things that are taught to people are actually retained in their brain. Less than 20%. So if I spend 1 hour talking to a group of adults, training them on something at work, they'll only remember 20% or less of it. Alright? What that means is I need to make sure that the 20% they remember is the most important 20% and not the useless 20%. Alright? How do I do that? I create emphasis through power. Similarly, if I want to create a sense of concern, I can always take a step back, reduce and tone down the power in my voice, which in turn also gets people interested in what I'm saying. Does that make sense? Very good. Pitch. I don't want to talk so loudly and so quickly that people can't understand me and they're so distracted by how I'm speaking rather than what I'm saying. At the same time, I don't want to sound so serious that it feels like I'm a really serious movie and they really shouldn't be listening to what I'm saying. You need to find the right pitch. Okay? Obviously, you can't change your voice if your voice is a certain way, but practice. Practice so that you make it easy for the listener to listen to what you're saying. Pitch is very important. Pace. If I start to speak too slowly, oh my god, after lunch you guys will fall asleep. I can guarantee you At the same time, if I start to speak very fast, some of you may not understand what I'm trying to say, and the entire point of my presentation will be lost. Do you agree? Especially Singaporeans talk so fast. You have a mixed audience, people will not understand. So be very sensitive to your audience. Okay? Be really sensitive to your audience and make sure that you're packaging what your message is in a way in which it makes sense to them and it's easy for them to understand. Then the battle in their heads, right? As an audience, the battle in their heads is not what are they saying to me, but oh, that makes sense, but then have questions about what they're saying, and they start thinking about what you're saying and not how you're saying it. Pause. Why are pauses important? Most important, it gives you a chance to breathe. Let's face it, if you have to stand up and talk, it's exhausting. You need the opportunity to stop and breathe. At the same time, you know what else is really exhausting? Listening to someone speak. Give a pause so that people take a second to think through what it is that you're saying to them. Imagine I was saying, do any of you have any questions? Okay, great, no questions, let's move on. I haven't given you a chance to think about your questions, leave alone ask them. At the same time, think back to Steve Jobs' video, right? He says, there's something in the air tonight. And then he pauses. Not only does he know that there's some kind of applause coming, but he has set an expectation. He has given you a clue as to what he is launching for the day. He's letting it sink in and getting people excited about what's coming. So pauses are great. It gives you a break, a well-deserved break. It also gives the listener enough of a chance to process what you're saying. Because it's not possible for a listener to listen and process at the same time. So pauses are important for that. Okay? At the same time, don't pause for too long. Your credibility could be at stake. So how do you then identify what the right amount of pause is the right amount for your presentation? Practice. Alright, it comes down to practice. The other thing, body language. I love this one. Energy. If I'm exhausted, you will be even more exhausted, I guarantee you that. Alright? So keep your energy levels up. Get yourself a cup of coffee if you have to before you begin. Do whatever it takes to bring your energy level up before you begin. Now, if you're going to do very long presentations, your energy levels will dip. Right? If you're going to do really long presentations, you start off energetic, and then you're starting to get tired, the energy levels dip, it goes down. What can you do to bring it back up? There are lots of great techniques you can use. You may want to stop, get everybody to stand up, and touch their toes. Shall we do that? Let's do that. Come on. Come on, guys. Everybody up. Up. Even those of you who are watching on Hangout, you can stand up and touch your toes now. Come on. Oh, you guys are young. You're getting up like a bunch of old people. Come on, get up. Alright. Hands up. Down, touch your toes, touch your toes, touch your toes. There we go. Twist. Small twist. Great. Turn around, look back. Who's sitting behind you? Say hi. Yep. And you can sit back down now. Keeping your energy levels up and your audience energy levels up, it's hard, but do it. If your energy level is not up, they're not listening to you and you're just wasting your time. Am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my time? I hope not. All right. So energy is super important. Okay. How's everyone feeling now? Apart from a little upset about having to stand up. Okay. Use your hands. Use your hands purposefully. Hands are a good. Alright? Like I said earlier, my personal style is to use my hands a lot when I speak, which is why I prefer this microphone to the handheld. When I have the handheld, I'm usually like flinging it in the air and I can't hear half what I'm saying because it goes into the air. But use your hands. If you're not comfortable and you don't know what to do with your hands, don't stick them in your pocket. This is the worst way to give a presentation. Right? This is horrible. Don't stick them in your pockets, but find a creative use for them. Maybe you would prefer to use this microphone instead of the lapel microphone. So request this. Maybe you would prefer to hold a clicker in your hand. Alright? Or maybe you just keep your hands by your side. Maybe not entirely like this and completely stiff, but keep it relaxed. In a way in which you are comfortable speaking. Some people like to have their notes in their hand, so their hands are engaged with that. But look at the body language. The other thing is, what if I'm standing like this and talking? So today we're going to talk about using your hands and body language. And I'm going to tell you about how to do a good presentation. It's horrible, right? Just standing there like a little schoolgirl. Nobody's going to take you seriously. They're going to be wondering why you're doing what you're doing. Do you not believe in what it is that you're presenting? So look at your body language, look at how you use your hands, where you're putting them, where your feet are. Eye contact. Here's the thing with eye contact. A lot of people will tell you, look just above the audience. I think that's rubbish. Do not look just above the audience. Okay? That doesn't get you anywhere. When it comes to eye contact, make actual eye contact with people in the group. There is no harm with actually reaching out and seeing the people that you're talking to. One, it will help you get buy-in. The other thing is, if I'm talking just above the room, you see the difference in the way I'm looking at you right now? I look vacant. Because I'm not looking at anyone, I'm looking at the walls. I'm looking at the top of your heads. But as a presenter, by actually making eye contact, I'm able to get immediate reaction about what I'm saying. If what I'm saying is not making sense, I will see it in your eyes. Then I know that I need to change the way I'm talking about it to you. But if I'm looking at you and I'm seeing you nodding along, that's good for me as a presenter. That's it. That's good for me as a presenter, right? Because then I know what I'm saying is making sense, and that then adds to my confidence. Alright, so make eye contact. Okay? It's feedback from the 90s if someone is telling you that you should be looking above people's heads. I think that's complete rubbish. Make eye contact because the audience knows whether you make eye contact or not. If you don't make eye contact, they'll know. They will not relate to what you're saying. Even in a really large audience, it's possible to make eye contact. In a room of 1,000 people. Select pockets of areas which you want to make that eye contact with, and go out and make that eye contact with people. At the same time, that doesn't mean you go around talking like this, making eye contact with everybody. Right? You have to make enough contact at any point in time so that you're able to relate to one person and then move on to the next. Typically, when you pause and move on to the next topic, you can then shift your gaze as well. Okay, so don't shift it too much. And also don't just stare one person down and make them really, really uncomfortable. So I'm going to talk to you today about presentation skills. He's starting to get a bit uncomfortable. So you don't want to do that either. Again, practice, 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 practice. Very important. Confidence. Confidence comes from all these different angles. If you're not confident, it will show. And here's a tip. Fake it until you make it. Fake the confidence until you really start to feel like you are confident. If you're not sure, right, this is your presentation, your project, you're presenting it to a group, you're not sure if this is right, you're not sure if you've done enough practice. Number one, practice. But let's say you're not sure, and it started to show in your body language, and you're nervous, and you're shaking, there's a bit of sweat, your voice is shaky. Tell yourself that you will fake being confident until you feel confident. And it has been proven over time that if you can fake it for a while, it will come to you. You will soon start to feel that confidence coming in. Once you see your audience responding in the way in which you want them to respond, the confidence will come to you. Okay? So don't worry so much about it. Just get started and tell yourself you can do it. Remember all the other aspects. Practice, get feedback, make sure energy levels are high, use your hands, make eye contact, and confidence will come to you. Make sense? At the same time, avoid getting too overconfident, because that can work against you as well. Okay? All right, elements of communication. What do you keep in mind? The tone of voice that you use contributes 38% of whether the communication point that you were looking to make has gone through or not. 38%. The actual words that you use, only 7%. Okay? Whereas your body language then contributes to a much greater degree of what message they're taking away. Let's say here I am telling you about this app that I think is wonderful for you and you should use. Yes, I think the app is very good. You should use it because it will make your life easier. I think it will save you $20 a day. It will make your life easier. Body language is awful. Do you remember what I said? So words come down to a very small percentage. I said something about $20. I said something about making your life easier. My body language, everybody understood. And I'm less likely to win in a competition when others are speaking and pitching products if I'm speaking like that. On the flip side, as unfortunate as it is, even if you have a really bad product, if you sell it really, really well, with extremely confident body language, you're still likely to succeed. Of course, in Steve Jobs' case, he had a good product, he was able to market as well. But think back to some of those other products which are not so great, but are marketed really, really well. Yeah? I think it could open up a lot of debate. We won't go into it, but just think back to it and hold on to it in your head. Okay. So this is something to be conscious of as you go into making presentations as well. You really need to go beyond what you're saying to think about how you're saying it. 4 more P's of presentations. Prepare, 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 prepare. I cannot tell you how important it is to prepare. Back when I used to work in our India office, which was one of 3 offices. Guys, are you listening to me or am I wasting my time? There are some voices I can hear at the back. Are you listening? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a couple of different stories of very successful presenters and where it comes from, right? Back when I was in the India office, it was only one of 3 offices that Google had globally. The head of the India office would do a Friday evening presentation for us every single Friday where we talk about the different products that we've launched. Then we had barely just launched Gmail. I think we were launching Google Finance and Google News. I don't know if you even know about some of these products anymore. Blogger, like old school products, right? So we were launching products like that. And every Friday he would meet with us for an hour, get the entire office together in the cafe, and we would talk about the launches of the week, the updates of the week, what's going on around the world. He was an incredible presenter. People loved to be there just because he was so funny. It was a great way to end the week. Of course, we got a lot of information, but we also ended up having a good laugh together, right? Later, many, many years later, I actually discovered that he would practice all his jokes. Really great presenters, as funny as they are, practice every single aspect of what they're going to present. Not just how they're going to stand, what they're going to wear, what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, but also the jokes, the pauses, Any surprises that they want to include in their presentation will be pre-planned and pre-practiced over and over again. Okay? So you can't be funny at the last minute. There's a huge probability that you will fail. On the flip side, if you practice it, you can be very, very funny. And your audience will love you for it. Okay? So preparation is key. I cannot tell you enough how important preparation is. There was another study conducted which basically studied the minds of what goes on in people's heads before they start an athletic activity. Okay, let's think of, let's say, Olympians. But let's think of a gymnast before their routine begins, right? So they studied different kinds of gymnasts who have achieved different levels of success over a period of time. And they found that those gymnasts who mentally went through their entire routine once before physically starting it were more likely to be successful than those who just started the physical routine, even though both the gymnasts had probably practiced that routine for 4 years, every single day. Okay? What differentiated someone who did really, really well from someone who did well was someone who could mentally run through everything that they eventually had to physically do. Why am I talking about this with regards to presentation? When you practice, number one, you become the master of it, you know that. But number two, your brain gets used to running through that routine. To give you an idea, before I came in to present today, when I was in the taxi cab on the way, I had my slides on my phone, I just went through it. I didn't go through the full 1 hour of presentation that I have for you, but I went through it so that I prepared my mind to go through that routine mentally before I came here to physically deliver it. And when you practice, first time you practice, you have to deliver a 1 hour presentation, you will practice for 1 hour. You will practice for 2 hours before you come down to 1 hour. The second time, if you get lesser, 45 minutes, you start practicing just the highlights. Next time, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. And before you go live, 30 seconds, you can go through everything that you have to go through in your head, and then you go live. But you need to train your brain to have gone through that much practice before you present, so that you're doing a really good job, and not just a good job, on the day of your presentation. That's what differentiates a good presentation from a great presentation. Okay? Yes?
Can you share with us some tips on how to practice for a presentation?
How to practice for a presentation? Some tips. Get your friends together in a room and present to them. And guys, if you are ever giving feedback to someone, to a friend, give honest, useful feedback. Okay? Take it seriously. If someone has the guts to come and ask you for feedback, they've really thought through this before they're putting you in the room and saying, give me feedback. It takes a lot of guts on their end to put people they know, people they hang out with, in a room to get feedback. Okay, so be useful. Don't waste your time, don't waste their time, be useful. Give constructive feedback. Talk about body language. Talk about pitch, pace. You speak too fast or you speak too slowly. There's not enough excitement in your voice. Why are you so stiff? Right? Give useful feedback that people can actually incorporate into making a good presentation. So, best way to get feedback, put your friends together in a room, have them give you honest feedback. Another great tool for feedback that people underestimate is videoing yourself. If you can't get your friends together, no problem. You all have camera phones. Set it up in your room, present your camera. Every single time I still do it, I ask myself so many questions. I'm like, what am I doing with my hands over there? Or why did I say it like that? Why didn't I say it in a different way? Why am I standing like that? Every time you watch a video of yourself presenting, you will discover something about your own style as well. But that's a great feedback mechanism. Present it to a video and watch it back and make notes for yourself. Okay? It's scary at first, but it's extremely useful, and I would definitely recommend you do it. So these are two quick ways in which you can get feedback. Another thing, let's say you go up and present to a group. if you know the people in the group you've presented to, let's say you made a pitch for your project or anything, go back and get feedback from them. I mean, not during your presentation. Don't say at the end of it, I want to get your feedback. But when it's done and you've left the room and you're in a more casual environment, ask them for honest feedback. They will give you really good tips. Cool? And of course, learn from your mistakes. Don't make the same mistakes again. All right. So 4 more P's: prepare, practice, present to various groups, rehearse, and process and analyze your performance. When you're done, come out and ask yourself what you did really, really well and what you did really, really bad. Okay? And then continue to fine-tune your presentation skills as it progresses. Okay? Okay, any other questions so far?
When you say process, do you mean process the performance from the practice or from actual life?
From life. So the question was, does process relate to your practice? When I say process, I mean once you present in live, come back out and ask yourself what went well and what didn't go. Interestingly, that's something that not many people do. Because they evaluate themselves in the practice stage, but not when they've actually delivered something. So come back out and ask yourself what went well, ask the audience, ask whoever else was in the room to get some feedback, and you can use that in your next presentation from there on. Any other questions? This side has been very silent. Questions? None? Okay. Okay. Let's now move on to the second part. We've spoken a lot about the engagement aspect of it. We'll talk about the content aspect of it. When it comes to telling a story, few different things to keep in mind. Before you read what's on the slide, I'm going to quickly ask you, how many of you like doing pre-work before class? Put your hands up. How many of you like to read up about topics that are coming up in class before you go into class? I'm sure at least there's one person. Come on. Okay, there was half a hand. Okay. How many of you really be completely honest here, by the way, it's not going to go on record anywhere. But how many of you would you say spend 95 to 100% of your time in class completely focused, learning everything you have to know in class? Okay, couple of hands. So you feel like you do most of your learning in class, right? Okay, how many of you feel like you do most of your learning after class when you go back and look at your books? Okay, very good. Within that group, how many of you feel like you do most of your learning by reading on your own after class? Okay. And how many of you feel like you do most of your learning in a group after class? In a study group? Anyone? No one? Nobody does study groups? Come on, guys. Study groups are the best. At least for me personally, study groups are the best way to learn. Right? So there are different ways in which people learn. Some of you may choose to learn in study groups or individually, hands-on, doing a practical session. And some of you may choose to study before you go into your class so that you understand it and then you use the class to debrief in your head everything that you've learned. Okay? So different people have different ways of learning. These are called learning styles. Okay? Now, different people have different ways of learning. Why is this important to us? Because as a presenter, you need to get your message across. And you may not know what the audience's preferred learning style is. So how do you then design a presentation that actually appeals to all those learning styles? How do you design a presentation or a message that will then get across to all the people, irrespective of what their preferences are? Right? So keeping that in mind, you go into you can create a presentation in different forms. Some of you may choose to use PowerPoint or Keynote. Some of you may choose to use a format like Prezi, which is a lot more interactive and graphic. Some of you may choose to do just images and then explanations, or handouts and explanations. There are different, or an activity even. You may even choose to run an activity in order to demonstrate your product, that's it. Okay? So there are different ways in which you can approach presentations. When we say presentation, don't immediately think of slides. Okay, it's not the number one response. Think of what you have to say and what is the best way to say it. The flow. How do you want to take your audience through whatever it is that you have to offer? Do you maybe want to start from the beginning and you think there is a logical flow, you walk them through it? Or do you start with what the end is, what the end state will be, and then walk them through what elements would get them to that end state? But think about what your flow should be and break it down for yourself. What I would do if I were you, going into presentation, my presentation flow would be on a post-it on my laptop. So then even if I forget, right, or even if something comes in the way and interrupts the entire class, let's say the fire alarm goes off, we all have to leave the building and join again after 20 minutes in another room, I'll know where to pick up from. My thought process won't get lost. So create a good presentation flow to go with. Use illustrations, use points. Do not make text-heavy slides. They are the worst. Do not, as a rule, do not make text-heavy slides. If you see your classmates making text-heavy slides, delete it for them, please. Okay? Feel free to just go in and delete, because those are not slides you should be presenting. Use metaphors and quotes. People love quotes. So use metaphors, use quotes, use images that are representative, that will stick in people's brains. So to give you an idea of what aids in retention, right? How do you get people to remember what it is that you're talking to them about? This is the order in which it goes. Okay? This is called the cone of knowledge or cone of learning. People are most likely to learn when they're doing the real thing, and least likely to learn when they're just reading. Okay? So most likely to learn when they're doing the real thing, when it's simulated, hands-on, when there's a discussion, when they're more engaged, versus it starts to then trickle down less and less if it's a demonstration or an audio-visual, just a video, or lecture or reading. Okay? At the same time, remember that different elements appeal to different types of people. So you may want to have a little bit of everything, which is why I had a video at the beginning of my presentation. Because that appeals to some people, doesn't appeal to some people. I have some slides with just text, I have some slides with some images. Okay, so that way I'm appealing to almost everybody in the room, one way or the other. Some stupid things presenters say. I hope you don't find this too boring. You're setting the wrong expectations. I'm going to talk to you about white bread, and this is exciting. Versus, I'm going to talk to you about white bread. Don't set the wrong expectations, okay? Don't tell them that, listen, I know it's boring, but I'm going to talk to you about it anyway. Then you're like, yeah, well, it's boring, switch off. So, don't start. Start on a positive note, keep it going positive, make it seem like you really still do believe in it. Sorry, I didn't have time to prepare. This is unacceptable. It goes against your own credibility, and already people are open to finding faults with everything that you have to say. So that is not acceptable. Not preparing is not acceptable. But even if you don't, please don't go out there and set the wrong expectation. Okay, so these are some very stupid things that people say. Avoid it. Do not ever say it. And if your friends are saying it, call them out on it. Another thing to remember. When you're talking about content, if you remember the first image, we had two people, right? We had the presenter and we had the audience. There's stuff going on in both brains. As the presenter, I know a lot more than what I'm talking to you about today. And when you are presenting, you will know a lot more than what you're talking about to the audience. What you're saying to the audience is only select highlights of all the knowledge you have. Okay, this is called the curse of knowledge. Okay, you know a lot and you feel like they should also know everything that you're talking about. But do they really have to know everything that they're talking about? They don't. Based on your audience, you need to ensure you're sending only those right highlights out in your messaging. And how do you do that? Ask yourself, is the information could know, is it should know, or is it must know? If it's must know, make sure it's that amount, that 20% of information that people actually remember. How do you do that? You create drama around it. Maybe not only are you talking about it, but you give them a handout about that bit of information, right? You give them a URL where they can read more. You give them examples, you play a video, you talk about that with a lot of passion, if that's a must know. If it's a should know, you can then tone it down further. It's not as important, but it's still available. More information available in the footnotes. More information available in the next link. And if it's a could know, I would say it doesn't have to be there. Especially if you have a short time within which you need to present. The other thing that this helps you do, just by kind of breaking it down into must know, should know, and could know, is if suddenly from 20 minutes you're given 3 minutes to present. What are you going to do? First panic? Right? First panic a little bit. Oh no, what are you going to do? From 20 minutes, you have 3 minutes. But you also then know what your must know information is, and very quickly you can filter out everything else and just go after must know. And this becomes more and more important as we go into talking about the elevator pitch. Okay? So use different techniques. What I do sometimes is I just color code my slides in yellow, green, and red. So green being must know, should know is yellow, and red is could know. So then I can just slip through those slides. You just put a little dot in the corner or something. Right? So you know which one's which. Or you can even just say must know, should know, or could know information. And if it's must know information, I have a summary slide at the end saying this is information you must know. I don't care if you don't remember anything else, you absolutely have to remember these 3 things. Okay? And people will remember it. And people will be appreciative that you understood only the parts, and you communicated only the parts that they need to understand. Make sense? Okay. So let's talk about the elevator pitch, the top triangle, the absolute must know. What is an elevator pitch? It's a pitch that you should be able to make about yourself or your apps or your products in the time it takes to get on a lift and get off. Okay? Imagine you were given 20 seconds in an elevator ride with someone who could fund your project. What would you say? That is the elevator pitch. Elevator pitches are in different forms, okay? So if you're going to talk about yourself, it can be very different from if you're going to talk about what you offer. But at the end of the day, it has to be one sentence. Okay, and this will happen. People will cancel appointments and they will tell you, meet me, I'm going down to the car park, come with me. You don't have your slides, you don't have the rest of your team. How are you going to go about making that pitch? Right? So what will you say to them in that ride down 7 floors to the car park before they get into the car that will get them thinking about what you had to offer? Okay? This is a common sentence construct that you can use and adapt to then make an elevator pitch. So how it goes is this. For the target customer, that is, who has a specific need, we have a product that is targeted to this category that has the benefit of XYZ, which is unlike competition X because this is how it's different. Okay? We have an app for students looking to share a taxi to travel to different places and it's called XYZ Taxi, right? And the benefit is that there is no additional booking charge, and sometimes students get a 10% discount, which is different from the other competitor apps available out there, and it has already seen X results. Let's say, promising results. One sentence, all the key information is in there. It talks about why you're different from the next. It talks about what you offer in itself and what it's called. Make sense? Easy? Easy-ish? At least the structure helps, right? Okay. So this is an elevator pitch. Here's what I want you to do. I would actually like to spend a bit of time getting you to create your own elevator pitches. But before that, I will show you an example of someone who won an elevator pitch competition, a student who was pitching and won an elevator pitch competition in the US. to gain funding for development of her app. Okay? Sounds very close to home, right? Sounds like something that would be useful. So I'll play this. It's just a minute, the entire video. Watch it, and after that, really think about the next step for us is to practice. Okay? So I'm going to give you a bit of time after that to create your own. Sounds good? Okay, is everybody up? Can you take a quick look at your neighbor, and if they're starting to doze off, can you poke them somewhere where it hurts? Yeah, there we go. Just like nudge them, poke them. There we go. All right.
Let's face it, sometimes men just don't understand women, and that's okay. We don't expect you to all the time. But it would be nice if a male who is developing an iPhone app for us understood us better. 10 million female iPhone users have repeatedly shown interest in the app market, but there are two problems here. One, not a lot of apps exist for women, and two, the apps that do exist kind of fall short of the mark, and that's mainly because men are developing them. So our team, we believe that we can connect with this dissatisfied and under-targeted market to bring very tailored apps specifically for women. We're seeking a $100,000 investment in exchange for a 25% stake in equity and a 10x return. We'll roll out one app quarterly, starting from 6 months from the initial investment. We expect break-even to occur by the end of year 1. We're Miss App, we're designing for women, and it's because, well, women like technology too.
All right. Thank you. What did you think of that? The pitch. What did you think of the pitch? I can't hear any of you. None of you are saying anything. What did you think of the pitch? Maybe it could have been even shorter if she had practiced it a little more and reduced some of the pauses.
Some pauses, thoughts did not match up. She was trying to catch up.
So it seemed like her thoughts were not matching up with her speech. She was trying to catch up. Okay. Maybe she was a bit nervous, which was accepted. Okay. Yes? Ah, good point. After a pitch, you still don't know what the product is. That's something that we discussed in the previous slide, if you remember, right? The name of the product and what it does is very, very important. It wasn't super clear, but here she was also pitching for funding. So it's a little bit different from just a product pitch. But even her request is so clear. She's not saying we're asking for some money, but she's specifically saying, here's the money we're asking for, and here's what we get in return. Right? Okay. So here's what we're going to do now. It's your turn to practice. Okay, I'm a little bit of past time. It's okay, it seems. But I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Actually, maybe less. I'm going to make it 3 minutes. Okay? Guys, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write a pitch. I will go back to the previous slide so that you know what the structure looks like. You can use that structure to write a pitch. It's just one sentence. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write a pitch. And then present it to the person next to you and get feedback from them. Remember what I said about giving each other feedback? Okay, so give each other really useful feedback, constructive feedback. And we'll also maybe get a couple of examples from the room. Is that okay? Okay, so 3 minutes starts now. It's 2:14 on this clock, so we'll come back at 2:17 to hear your pitches. Is that okay? There we go. Let me know if you have questions in the meanwhile.
Sorry, so we just wait for
Yeah. If in doubt, you could do it for a fictitious product or a product that you currently are using and like, or for apps you're building. or if you completely at a loss, you can do it for a taxi sharing service for students.
It'll take a while to get warmed up.
I'm sure.
Sorry, the acoustics are pretty bad.
As long as they can hear me.
Yeah, I think pretty much everyone was in the back. It's okay if you run 5 minutes because there's time.
Okay.
Usually it takes them like a minute or two to warm up, and then when you want to cool them down, they don't cool
It
down.
doesn't do that. You have another minute. Okay, so can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, can you hear me now? You have about a minute left. It's already 2:17, but I'll give you one more minute. How many of you have a sentence in place? So there's stuff to be won if you do come up with a sentence. If you don't, I'm going to take it back home with me. So let me know. You have another minute to come up with something. It's not so hard. We all know that college students do everything last minute. So here's an opportunity to do it in a way in which you're most comfortable. Very last minute. Literal last minute. One more minute to go. So put it together. Okay, so who has their statement ready? Their elevator pitch? Nobody. So we get to take this home.
Okay, this is where your all 11 teams, those of you who are seeking advance, you can show your mettle here, right? Volunteer. It's not hard, it's just one sentence, come on.
It's a great opportunity to get feedback from a room full of peers. We promise not to laugh or judge each other. Not even one brave volunteer. One.
Come on, Google gave you those nice water bottles, right? Now I want some insurance. Okay, well, I'm going to volunteer someone, and it's not going to be from someone in the front of the classroom. Sir.
Sorry, can you come back to me later? I'll think of something really good.
All right. Thanks to our 8 volunteer. Your name, sir? Irvin. Okay, we'll be back to you very shortly. Who has a pitch? I don't like arrowing people, but I will.
This is what happens when you don't volunteer.
Miss? Someone who wants to save these damsels in distress?
Or keychain? Ah, the gentleman here.
Okay, we have a white knight. Sir, your name? Your name? Chandi.
Can I just marketing a virtual product? Okay, so for starting out. So for people finding hard to park their cars, we made an app which allows them to check the nearest car park data, which is the real-time information. And the product is superior than any other product existing because it works both online and offline. It's very easy to use.
Round of applause. What did we think? What did we think of that? It was a good pitch, right? Do we agree or not? Yep. Okay, good pitch. What was really, really good about it? Short. Took 20 seconds. It told us what the product is. Told us what the product is, what's different from the competition, right? In a way in which it's relatable to the person who is listening. Good? Yes? Thank you very much. Do we have goodies? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Who else wants to give it a shot now that the first person's come up? There we go.
Hi everyone. I'll keep it short. Okay, so what the problem I'm trying to face is that in classrooms, during our lectures, all of us have a lot of questions, but then the lecture doesn't have enough time to answer every question, and then there's some people who are not really confident of asking a question. So to solve that problem is I'm thinking of an app where people can post their questions, and other people in the class can vote for the questions. So the teacher can see the top 3 questions, and due to short of time, you can answer the top 3 questions. So yeah, the app is called University, the S changed to C, and the tagline is the answer to your burning questions. Yeah, thank you.
What do we think of that?
Your name, sir. Your name. Shutam. Let's have a hand for Shutam.
Well done. It's a different pitch from the previous. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. It's a different pitch from what was previously put forth. It was a different pitch, but it was a good pitch, right? It was a good pitch. It got to the problem that the app was looking to solve. Spoke about the problem. Spoke about what the app does, and clearly pointed itself out as being unique in the marketplace. Along with what it's called. So in our heads, we now imagine what the app is called and how it's spelled. Good stuff? Awesome, very well done. Thank you for coming forward. One more person, one last volunteer. Anyone? We have someone in the back? No? Just stretching your arm? No? Do you have something up here? Okay, we have one over there.
Hi, my name is Eugene. I'll start a pitch for my project here. So for students who have a book at home that nobody reads, Bookshare is an online platform that makes your book become valuable again by letting others reading it. Unlike donating your book to the library, you now become part of the community.
Nice. Applause. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think that was really well done. That followed the exact same structure that we have up here, right? Do you feel, but for those of you who have come out and put forth your elevator pitch, do you feel like you got across all the important messages about what you're looking to achieve? You think so? All the key elements are there. Do you think? The name of your product, what the product does, and what the end effect of the product will be. What it will create, whether it's creating a community or creating a platform where people can ask questions. It's giving an image, it's creating an image in the minds of the listener, and thereby you've been able to put forth the message that you were looking to get forward. Make sense? Okay, so thank you for coming forth, the three of you. Very brave. Well done. Step one is to ask for feedback, which you did. So there's always a beginning part, and start roping your friends in to get that honest feedback when you first get started. So once again, applause for those three. You remember how I said people remember less than 20%? So what I do is I come back and I reiterate and I say, if you don't remember anything else, remember this. So here's that slide, okay? If you don't remember anything else from what we've discussed over the last hour and 20 minutes, remember that there are various elements to communication. Body language plays a huge part, the tones you use plays a huge part, and words play a much smaller part. So remember the elements of communication. Remember the 4 Ps: power, pace, pitch, and pause. Then remember the remaining 4 Ps. Prepare, 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 prepare. Practice, please practice. Present, get feedback, and process it. Once it's done, it's not over. Your presentation is not successful if you don't learn something from it. So go back and process and evaluate your actual performance. All right? So if you remember nothing else, remember the elements of communication, remember the 4 Ps, and remember the 4 next Ps. All right? With that, I am done. Thank you so much. I hope you found the session useful. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I just want to leave you with one final video, right? We started out with Eric Schmidt presenting in a horrible manner, which none of you agreed to, but I think it was horrible. So I'm going to leave you with a more recent presentation that Eric Schmidt made at Zeitgeist in, this was either it was 2013. There we go.
Thank you. It's great to be back. I think the feeling of being here, being with you, is something I look forward to every year. And when I think about this conference, which we started in California about 10 years ago, I think about it as a metaphor for Google's evolution. You know, we started off with search, and I think now about the success of Android, targeted advertising, the display advertising business. I think about our Gmail and, in particular, our enterprise business and the wins we have there. Google Glass, self-driving cars, the Chrome and Android platforms as economic and technical platforms. And I wonder what's next. Right? What can we do to make the world a better place? And the reason I've gotten so interested in this is that technology is the key driver of almost all human progress, if you look at human history. And I tend to think of, you know, look at what we've accomplished here and how incredible it is that we have all of these things. And then you go to North Korea, where none of this is true. And then you begin to realize that there is a greater purpose to what we do, that you do, and that I want to do in life. There are so many people who are suffering in one way or the other for the lack of the things that we take for granted here.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause it here. This entire video is available online if you want to watch it. Just look for Eric Schmidt Zeitgeist. But you see the difference. When we first got started, he was hands in pockets, mumbling to himself, head down a little bit, versus now so much more clear and evolved. Right? So everybody starts somewhere. Everybody starts with their first horrible presentation that they regret and remember for the rest of their lives. Right? But it's only the beginning. It always gets better. Again, thank you so much. I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any. And good luck with all presentations up ahead for you.
So we are really happy to have Darshini and Santhanam come down with Cheryl to present about Google. And there'll be more from Google over the next couple of months. We'll have more news from them. But right now we're going to take a 5-minute break. I know some of you need the toilet. You know, we're all down here to take your questions, especially about presentation skills. I'll be talking about the presentation you have to do tomorrow about the elevator pitch, right? So we'll talk about that shortly after.
We have some more of this stuff if you'd like to give it up. Yeah, we should at once.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Because even we were going to use them for other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for coming down. That's great.
Yeah.
It's always useful. Trust me, the students, they freeze, they have enough. And this is part of the reason why we do this. We want them to come on stage, or they have to come on stage. 1 minute pitch, just one slide. Yeah. So it's really hard to distinguish because there's 120 teams that will go through here. 2 hours of 1 minute presentation. So
if it's possible, we should definitely record those and get
we have them recorded from last year. Yeah, we've asked them to critique as part of they have 3 evaluations. So the evaluations are not done by us, it's done by them. It's peer evaluations. So they will have to tell their peers, okay, this was my 1 minute video that I recorded here tomorrow.
Yeah.
And critique me, tell me about, you know, whether it's clear or not. Because at the end of the course, they have to make a 5-minute video about what they actually did. So they have a chance to reprise and make better.
Right. Yeah.
No, it really helps. Every time the students, last year they said this was by far the most student presentations of the day. Davidson came to do it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So they all stood up like you. Everyone stand up.
Yeah, nobody likes to stand up. Just settle in and everyone wants to get up. But, sometimes you have to do it. Just to reset. After lunch especially.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't give you
No. I think it's fine. We can do it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not at all. So you'll see them again, I'm sure, you know, one way or another, either on YouTube or in person.
We'll catch sharing this. I've just left this over here.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much.